the Mouse Sports. My name is Jeremiah. This is my brother, Brandon. We are so excited to be able to bring you guys some new content. If you've seen our last video, we just talked about, all the big games that led up to it, the Oklahoma, Nebraska, the Alabama, Florida game, the Georgia, South Carolina game. Brandon made mention of a few other games. Now it's time to talk about the biggest game from Saturday. And it's not a whole video about Auburn. We got some other things that, we really want to touch on. But Auburn and Penn State. I had Auburn winning. You had Penn State winning. Glad you went up on me another one. However, Auburn did not look bad in this game. Look, I want to talk about Tank Bigsby real quick.
Phenomenal football player.
Look, Auburn is known for the running backs that they have. In my opinion, I'm thinking back to the Cadillac Williamses, the 2 year, who was that dude a few years ago that ran all over Alabama 3 years ago, something like that. Can't remember that dude's name for nothing, but they constantly have this one guy.
Keon Johnson?
Yeah, Keon Johnson. Cameron Petway.
Petway too.
They had Petway and Johnson, and they just kept, all they had to do was pound the ball. Auburn is not the best passing team in America, but with their rushing, man, they're averaging over 100 yards a game just in rushing. And Tank Bigsby getting the bulk of those carries. He had 23 carries Saturday for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. The dude is a Mack truck running through the line, dude. He's like, you just hand it to him. He's like, I'm going to bulldoze you. And that's also a testament to Penn State, because while Tank Bigsby was running 102 yards on you, everybody else that got a touch, you really kept them, below 75 yards. So you didn't just get blown out on the ground game, but by one person. That's actually really good in my opinion. And they held Auburn to 185 passing yards, which, Big Ten defense playing against an SEC offense like that, especially an Auburn team that's put up 60-plus points in every game except for this one.
Yeah.
Dude,
Auburn's defense, I thought, looked really good. They seem prepared. Penn State's offense looks really good. Quarterback seems poised and prepared. Offensive line did a really, really good job, I thought. I think Penn State stands a really good chance of coming out on top of the Big Ten if they progress in the same manner, especially with the way Ohio State's been kind of struggling. I mentioned in the other video, but they played a very close game with where'd it go? I'll have to edit that out. They played a back in rolling 1-2. They played a very close game with Tulsa, and the score is 41-20. But with, I think it was maybe just north of 5 minutes left, the score was 27-20. And so it was a lot closer game than the final score would lead you to believe. And what ended up happening was Ohio State scored a couple times in the last couple minutes. That's not promising for Ohio State football, I wouldn't think. Now, I'm not really here to talk about them. I'm just saying I think that says a lot about the potential that a team like Penn State or Michigan might have for this season, because I don't think that Ohio State is the clear front runner of the Big Ten. And it's just kind of like the Alabama-Florida game. And up to this point, everybody was kind of like Alabama here and then the rest of the pack, maybe the other guys here. Georgia might have been up a little bit higher than the other pack, and then the rest of the pack down here. Now maybe it's not seeming like that so much, maybe there's 2 or 3 teams up here towards north of the top, and then it's just kind of more spread out, a little more even across the top of that spectrum. So we're going to find out. This season is going to get really interesting, and I don't even really want to make any more predictions, because I think they're all going to be wrong.
This season reminds me so much of that 2007 season.
It's
the
all
one
over the board.
All over the place. It was wild. You had Kansas at one point as the number 1 team in the country in 2007. I don't think we're going to get anything like major like that, But, with Fresno State looking pretty decent, they could make a really crazy push, and so
Fresno's 3-0 right now, right?
3-1. They lost to Oregon.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
But every other team they played, they've beaten. They just beat UCLA, so I don't know, man. Like, Penn State is going to, in my opinion, Penn State is going to win the Big Ten. And the only other team I have as a surprise contender is Michigan State. And it's not even really a surprise because Michigan State's handling business week in and week out. I think Michigan's going to Michigan. They're gonna do what they do best, and Jim Harbaugh is gonna pull a Jim Harbaugh and throw it away somehow. Probably lose to Ohio State because he doesn't know how to beat Ohio State. But
I hope that's all wrong. I really do, because I would really just like to see Michigan be successful. I want to see more than Ohio State dominating the conference. Like other people want to see more than Alabama dominating the SEC. Which I think we're seeing right now. I think the talent and the, I think you got Georgia and Florida and maybe even Ole Miss is risen up. Texas A&M looked really good yesterday. Calzada got in the calzone. I'm pointing that. I'm telling you. So like it looks really good. Like these teams are looking really good. And I'm not coming out here and saying, yeah, somebody's going to dethrone Alabama immediately, but it's not going to be an easy road, I think, for those teams moving forward. But back to Penn State and Auburn, I think Penn State has a really good shot at a Big Ten championship if they stick to their style of football, don't try to get fancy. I mean, they played a really solid game against Ohio State last year. And they have the guys. They have the talent on the roster. They have the coaching. So barring, I think, some monumental shift or terrible injury that takes out Clifton, because I think he's kind of that centerpiece that makes it all work. I think they are the team to beat in the Big Ten right now.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Either them, we're kind of overlooking Iowa.
Well, we're going to get to see that in a couple of weeks because Penn State's playing Iowa in, I think, 2 weeks.
I don't want to say
Iowa
bad, but Iowa, like they've every game they've been put up against, they've come out on top, and they've looked really good coming out on top. It's not been, they've had decisive win after decisive win. So I think that Penn State Iowa game is really going to be the determiner. Usually it's the Penn State Ohio State game, but now I think it's the Penn State Iowa game. I think Ohio State, they just have that lure about them that everybody's like, okay, we're playing Ohio State.
Kind of like people have probably going into an Alabama game. It's like, oh no, we're playing Alabama.
They come in kind of defeated before that, and that just, you can't play these major teams coming in defeated.
But I don't see that in this Penn State team. I see them like they don't have that fear about them, and I think playing such a tight game. I can't remember what the final score was, but it was a really close game last year. I don't know if the final score reflected that, but I watched the whole game, Ohio State and Penn State last year, and it wasn't a blowout. You know what I mean? I don't know what the final score was, but the final score don't always dictate what the game holds, So that's what I'm saying. I can't remember. It may have looked like a blowout, but it really wasn't because they played it tight most of the game. But that the quarterback got injured last year too, and it caused an issue. But regardless of that, I thought Auburn looked really good. I don't think they played terrible. Some things could have went differently that I think severely impacted the game. And this is what I really want to talk about. All right. This is what had me fired up. We were talking about it earlier. But the targeting rule and how they apply it. It drives me absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. And here's why. Let me collect my thoughts real quick before I say anything crazy. All right.
Well, I will
go ahead and get started.
I'll address the targeting call because to me, when I rewatched the video after you brought it up to me, I can understand why it's a targeting. I can even make the argument as to, he did kind of like he led with his whole body. He hit him in the back. It was an exposed offensive player, like that calls. You can make every argument as to why that call was called. But in the defense of the defensive player, you have to give them a place to not make those type of hits. Because in his mind, he sees a guy going to try to score, and I know you're going to talk about this, but he sees a guy going to try to score, and he's got to do whatever he can to stop him. Well, why would we allow him to score the ball freely? And I know this is the way you're going to go, and I'm going to let you get to that. But I do want to make the argument of a targeting is still a targeting. I think where I don't get it is, why are we suspending players for half a game? Like, that's the part of the rule that I don't like. That's the part of the rule that makes no sense. Why are we suspending someone for making a football play on a football field? Like, that just doesn't make sense. And it's all up to the ref. It's not up to the player. It's up to the ref. Like, it's at the ref's discretion and what the ref thinks is. And so, like, it just, talking about Ohio State, you told me about that video from the guy earlier where the Minnesota guy, week 1, Minnesota dude gets knocked out. You can see his arm go limp and everything.
As soon as he gets hit, crown to the side of the helmet, body goes limp, he drops the ball. I'm pretty sure they reviewed it, if I'm remembering correctly. I'd have to go back and double check, but I'm pretty sure they reviewed it. If they didn't, they should have, because it's pretty clear. But they took a while after the play happened, and I don't remember exactly what they were doing. They were either determining where to spot the ball, or they were determining if it was an actual fumble, catch, then fumble. But in that, they should have seen that, because they can see that from a review and make a determination whether to call targeting. Like, crown of the helmet to the side of the helmet knocks the guy unconscious. He goes limp and face down into the dirt. That's not a targeting. It ends up being a fumble that goes to Ohio State. But you got Auburn's defensive player who is just trying to stop a touchdown. He doesn't even make forcible contact to the head. I mean, not
he hits back of the shoulder.
It was a graze. I mean, it wasn't even like, and it wasn't intentional. That's the thing. Like, it wasn't like he buried his head down and was trying to cause any kind of harm. There's two very different scenarios. One should have been a targeting because it was obvious and arguably intentional, because he hit him in the side of the helmet with his helmet. He launched into him to do that. The other one, he's just trying to make a play on the ball. What's he supposed to do? Stand there and just let the guy walk into the end zone? Or ask, hey, bro, are you gonna stop and be down? Like, because if you're not, I probably need to try to tackle you, and I don't want to hit you with my helmet. So let me wrap you up.
Let me
Yeah, I got to hug you. I got to make sure I don't get. Let me get my head out the way so I can make this tackle. Like, no. But there is a vast difference in when somebody is catching the ball in the air and coming down with it, and then a guy launches from the ground and hits him in the side of the helmet with the top of their helmet, and somebody who's diving. As an offensive player, they make the decision to dive. To me, that doesn't make them defenseless. That makes them the aggressor. And that's where I have an issue with it, because when the offensive player becomes the aggressor and makes the decision to dive, they're not defenseless. They're opening it up to saying, hey, hit me, bro.
Yeah, like,
my best. To me, a defenseless player is the guy catching the ball trying to get to the ground. If he gets hit in the head, yes, that's a target. A guy who makes the decision to throw his head out in the middle of traffic, knowing it can get trampled and kicked and kneed and everything else, no matter what, that guy's not defenseless. He has chosen to take that risk. What are you supposed to do? Just be like, oh, he dove. I got to get out the way because I might get a targeting. No, it's stupid. I hate it. It's driving me crazy, man. And it's called unequally across the spectrum. There was another game week 1. I can't remember what game it was. It was almost identical to the one from the Ohio State game. And they stopped the play, reviewed it, and added the targeting. It wasn't called on the field, but they stopped the play, reviewed it, and then added the targeting. They should have done that in the Ohio State game. Both were good calls. The point is, or one was a good call and one was a no call. The point is, it needs to be even.
Yeah.
You know, why does something like that not get called? Whereas something like just trying to stop a guy from scoring who dove to the end zone gets called a targeting when he hits him with his shoulder. I don't.
There's too much gray area inside of this one rule, you know, and it just as
it
a
has
whole.
too much power over the outcome of a game.
Yeah.
Because had that been a targeting call in the Ohio State game, Minnesota gets the ball
And 15 yards.
And a first down. You know, it's not a fumble to Ohio State. They, you know, that changes the whole dynamic of the game, because that's what gave Ohio State the win. That call. And it should have. Now, granted, if Minnesota had played better and been up 3 touchdowns or something with 2 touchdowns, it wouldn't have mattered. But the point is, that's not it. Like, if it gets called in Ohio State's down, you know what I mean? Then that gives them a chance to score. If it doesn't get called, is what I mean. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if they don't call it when it should be called, and then they're down, it gives them a chance to go back and score when the team has a chance to put the game out of reach or put the game down. So it has way too much power over the outcome of a game if they're not going to call it when it should be called, and then call petty ones, you know, on a really good defensive player. So it just really gets me fired up, because it just makes zero sense to me how they apply it. It's
Speaking of 0 sense and rules that make 0 sense, this stupid fair catch rule is the one that gets me fired up. And the reason being is it takes the whole point of kickoff out of the game. And we've made mention of this, you know, in our conversation one-on-one, but how can you fair catch the ball on the 10-yard line and then get an extra 15 yards because you made a fair catch? What is the point in that? Like, most of the time, by the time you fair catch, there's not even a dude within 100 or within, you know, 20 feet of you, 30 feet of you. You got enough time to make it to the 50. You got enough time to run 15 yards. You know, most of the time you're going to get out to the 20, 25 anyways. Sometimes you can get a 30, but like, it's taking the whole point of the return game, and these return specialists, you know, like, it blows my mind that a dude can make a fair catch on the 1 yard line and get an extra 24 yards added to his return. Like, we're giving away yards that don't need to be given away.
Well, there's a few things that I think really stand out with that, in that you're risking a lot of injury. You know, I know that it's a very low risk to the kicker, but I mean, kicker could get injured just kicking off. You know, somebody running down could, you know, God knows, trip and fall and break it off. I mean, you never know. Why are we risking that if people are just going to fair catch it and get put on the 25? Just take the kickoff out if they're not going to run it back.
Take it completely out. If you're going to make this rule where if you fair catch it within the 25-yard line, you get to the 25-yard line anyways. No, like, I just eradicate the kickoff altogether. Start the ball on the 25-yard line. That's what they do in overtime. Huh?
They do that in the CFL.
Well, they do it in overtime anyways, and I think the CFL doesn't even have kickoff. They just start the ball. You know, at the 25.
I could be wrong, though. I don't really know their rules that well.
I can't. These rules, there's too much gray area in between these rules. There's so much, like, well, if you know, especially with this targeting rule, man.
If you walk backwards twice to the left on Sunday, you get 5 yards. But if it's Saturday, it's 2.5 plus an ice cream cone.
No, like, you can't have, and even with teams like Alabama and Ohio State, they usually get the benefit of the doubt. Like, oh,
it's true.
That was, and I'm using, because I know Alabama's gotten these calls where it was obviously probably a targeting, but they ended up giving it away. I remember Sean Dion Hamilton one year before he went to the league, he made a tackle where he didn't lead with the crown of his helmet. He basically done what he was supposed to do, put his face mask in the chest of the dude and tackled him. And they ended up calling a targeting call. And what he, like, when they reviewed it, they realized, oh no, he just made a good tackle. And the penalty still stood. They still got 15 yards on the play, which is ridiculous in itself. If it's not a targeting call, it shouldn't remain a targeting penalty.
Yeah,
but they
take that away, though.
I don't think they have. Because
Okay,
like even in the reviewable, like when they go back and review it,
I was thinking they didn't. I was thinking they left it there, and it's still a penalty if they throw the penalty. They just remove the targeting.
yeah, they remove the ban from the player, like he doesn't get ejected anymore, but the targeting call is still.
That's insane too. If that's the case, I have to look at it and see because I'm not sure.
If it's not a targeting call, it shouldn't be a 15-yard penalty, no matter what. The penalty,
right? Because the targeting call is what the penalty was.
Exactly. So you what you're saying is you can take away the targeting call, and like the player can still play, but you can't. The player is no longer ejected, but you can't give them back the 15 yards that you just handle, like free-handed to another team. Like this is,
yeah, I have to check
so
that. I can't remember. I don't know for sure. I have to look at that. I'm not entirely sure.
And it's the same with this onside or this fair catch, man. Like if you wave your hand like this and you catch the ball on the 10-yard line, that means you're stopping the play at the 10-yard line. That's it.
That's how it works on a punt. How come you don't get 20 extra yards when you get a fair catch on a punt?
Like fair catch in general, like when you're making that fair catch, when you're making that motion, like the whole point of a kickoff, if you don't want people to get hurt, take it out. Don't run kickoff, but don't punish the team that's kicking off and trying to make the game like an actual thing. Don't punish them for strategizing for the kickoff. Don't punish them for keeping it within play just so this dude will make a return and potentially start with worse field position than what he started with. Like, why are they getting this free 15, 20 yards? Makes no sense. And it's like, it's boggled my mind since they brought this rule in, because like now you got people that are just like, oh, well, I'm getting 25 yards anyways. Okay, I'm good. Like, I don't have to worry about it. Yeah, just let it roll. Wow. Don't even try to catch it. Just let it go. Because if it hits the end zone, guess what? 25 yards. That's cool. If it rolls out of the back of the end zone, if it touches the end zone, it is a 25-yard. If you don't touch that ball and it rolls into the end zone, that's 25 yards. Don't even worry about catching it. Just don't even make the fair catch. Like, what's the point?
I don't understand the point of it. I'm sure they have a reason, but it doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what is the purpose?
It takes away football plays from being football plays.
You almost never see runbacks anymore, kickoff returns. And
Sean Taylor.
Like if that's the case, why do we do that?
It's a waste of time on the clock that could be put towards actual play, actual.
And hopefully at some point they'll make that adjustment, but if that remains to be seen, man. Do you want to move on to the next one?
What is the next one?
Now we'll figure that out in a minute. All right, guys, thanks. We'll wrap this one up and hit like, subscribe, comments, all that good stuff. We're trying to pump up this algorithm. So